Globalization is a process of interaction and integration among the people, companies, and governments of different nations, a process driven by international trade and investment, and aided by information technology. This process has effects on the environment, on culture, on political systems, on economic development and prosperity, and on human physical well-being in societies around the world.
Today we are going to focus on four main subcategories of globalization: homelessness, child labor, work, and human rights and privatization. So first, what is
Homelessness is a condition of those who do not have a regular dwelling. A homeless person is an individual without permanent housing that may live on the streets, in a shelter, an abandoned vehicle or abandoned building, or in any other unstable arrangement.
Is it your first instinct to help out or reach out when you see a homeless person?
Yes, definitely. My first instinct would be to help them out, since a lot of the times in society we tend to look down upon the homeless people. However, that's not always the case. They do actually need help. So yes, my first instinct would be to help them out.
Is it your first instinct to help out or reach out when you see a homeless person?
Honestly, it is my first instinct because I can imagine, like, if that was me, I would want someone to reach out and help me. It's probably not a good feeling watching people just walk right on by. So, yes, it is my first instinct, and I believe in donating and helping them out because they haven't done anything wrong to you, and it's just being a good citizen. You know, you want to help out, donate, and you don't want to be selfish. You know, being loving and giving up things for other people, it's selfless, and that's what I believe.
Despite common misconception, homelessness is not a modern-day issue. It is also found in sacred scripture. Here are just some Bible verses showing what God requires of us. Suppose there are brothers or sisters who need clothes and don't have enough to eat. What good is there in your saying to them, God bless you, keep warm and eat well, if you don't give them the necessities of life? Share your belongings with your needy fellow Christians and open your homes to strangers. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed.
The Catholic social teaching that relates to homelessness is human dignity. Human dignity is something that can't be taken away. Catholic social teaching states that each and every person has value, are worthy of great respect, and must be free from slavery, manipulation, and exploitation. Catholic social teaching believes that human beings, created in the image and likeness of God, have by their very existence an inherent value, worth, and distinction. Rerum novarum, Condition of Labor, 1981, paragraph 23. When there is a question of protecting the rights of individuals, the poor and helpless have a claim to special consideration. The rich population has many ways of protecting themselves and stands less in need of help.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address in the torn up town. No postcode envy, but every song's like gold teeth, gray goose dripping in the bathroom, bloodstains, ball gowns, trash in the hotel room. We don't care, we're driving Cadillacs in our dreams, but everybody's like crystal, Maybach, diamonds on your timepiece, jet planes, islands, tigers on a gold leash. We don't care, we aren't caught up in your love affair, and we'll never be royal. It's a run in our blood, the kind of luck's the same for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me King B, and baby I'll rule. Let me live that fantasy.
The moral test of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. The option for the poor is an essential part of society's effort to achieve the common good. A healthy community can be achieved if its members give special attention to those who are poor and on the margin of society. When referring to the Catechism, it states, "Blessing the poor, God blesses those who help the poor and rebukes those who do not. Jesus will recognize his chosen ones by what they have done for the poor." The Church's love for the poor is part of a constant tradition. The duty of work flows from love for the poor because the worker can give to those in need, both materially, culturally, and religiously. 2443 to 2444. Also in the Catechism, it states under selfish use of riches, 2445 to 2446, that love for the poor is incompatible with the selfish use of riches. It says, "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your gold and silver have rested, and their rest will be evidence against you, and you will eat your flesh like fire. The wages of the laborers which you kept back by fraud cry out, and the cries of harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord's hosts." And lastly, in the Catechism, under Measures to Help the Poor, 2449, the Old Testament contains many juridical measures to aid the poor. It states, "You shall open your wide hand to your brother, to the needy, and to the poor." Jesus asks us to recognize his own presence in the poor. We must not fail to help our neighbors because in them we serve Jesus.
The Canadian government approved a bill that would add homeless people to the groups protected under hate crime laws. Under current law, violators are subject to additional penalties if their crime is motivated by another person's race, color, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, or national origin, and also homelessness.
So moving on to child labor, what is it exactly? According to the International Labor Organization, child labor is work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and it is also harmful to their mental and physical development. This work is typically mentally, physically, and socially dangerous. It interferes with their schooling and deprives them of the opportunity to attend school. This often results in these children leaving school prematurely. The most extreme form of child labor includes enslavement and separation. Here are some pictures of children in sweatshops around the world. Here is a sacred scripture related to child labor.
Here for the third time, I am ready to come to you, and I will not be a burden, for I seek not what is yours, but you. For children are not obligated to save up for their parents, but parents for their children.
Pope Leo XIII wrote an encyclical letter that addressed the rights and duties of those with capital who employed laborers and the rights and duties of laborers towards those with greater wealth who employed them. This encyclical, called Rerum Novarum, laid out fundamental principles for the relationship between capital and labor, and also responded to both negative and positive methods that were being employed to deal with this problem.
The Catechism of the Catholic Church states that child labor in its intolerable forms constitutes a kind of violence that is less obvious than others, but it is not for this reason any less terrible. 639. It is seen as a moral issue, as children are meant to be looked after and cared for until their bodies and minds are sufficiently developed, which includes giving them the right of education, food, shelter, and support. The Church's social doctrine states that this child exploitation is a serious violation of a person's dignity, no matter how small or insignificant they seem to society. Catholic social teaching tells us that we should live in a just society. The slavery these children are forced to undergo oppresses the teaching as the world they live in is unjust and fair, full of violence. This also defies the Church's teaching of the common good. The common good refers to the good of all within the community. The violation of these children is not showing good within the community, as that they have been deprived of a childhood and have been forced to be a part of this corrupt environment while being taken advantage of. The universal destination of goods refers to God's creation being used to benefit everyone. The use of children for others' benefit is misusing the creation God has created and therefore is defying Him.
Civil laws in regards to child labor in Canada regulate the employment of children and youths. Generally, children and youths under 18 may work as long as it does not hurt their health, welfare, or safety, or interfere with school attendance. Most provinces do not allow children under 14 years of age to work except in special cases. Most provinces also restrict the number of hours minors can work. In addition, each province has laws that require minors to be in school at certain times of the day. Generally, young workers may not work at night or during normal school hours.
Next, we will be discussing work and human rights.
Labor rights or worker rights are a group of legal rights and claimed human rights having to do with labor relations between workers and their employers, usually obtained under labor and employment law. In general, these rights have to do with workers' pay, benefits, and safe working conditions. Human rights. While some dictionaries define the word right as a privilege, when used in context of human rights, we are talking about something more basic. Every person is entitled to certain fundamental rights simply by the fact of being human. These are called human rights, rather than a privilege, which can be taken away at someone's whim.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
What do you think your rights are as a worker?
So, as a worker, I think we should be treated with respect and dignity, and we shouldn't be obligated to work overtime. We should work the required hours that we feel we can do.
Are you currently employed?
Yes.
What do you think your rights are as a worker?
For my safety, to be treated with respect, and
Thankfully, the Catholic tradition teaches that human dignity can be protected and a healthy community can be achieved only if human rights are protected and responsibilities are met. Therefore, every person has a fundamental right to life and a right to those things required for human decency. Corresponding to these rights are duties and responsibilities to one another, to our families, and to the larger society.
Finally, we have privatization. What is privatization? Privatization is the transfer of ownership of property or businesses from a government to a privately owned entity. This relates to the encyclical Laudato Si. Pope Francis underscored the importance of the human right to water and objected to privatization of water services in his highly anticipated encyclical letter Laudato Si. The emphasis on the human right to water in the face of the impending global freshwater crisis is critical. A human rights-based approach calls for a hierarchy of water use that prioritizes resources for domestic consumption, sustainable food production, and environmental needs. In addition, it requires states to ensure universal enjoyment of public water and sanitation services.